Hello, everybody. This is Fernando for the latest Godzilla news podcast. Well, time to get back into the swing of these things when it comes to creating a special news project or a news podcast every single day. I kind of took a little bit of a break while I was out in Vegas. I thought I would be able to do it every day there, but Vegas definitely wears you out, so I thought I'd give it a rest and then start doing it as soon as I came back. This one was an article that I found in Yahoo, which in turn led me to a bizjournals.com article, and it has to do with this. Hyperloop 1, the proposed mega fast rail speed structure that stretches out thousands of miles, is apparently back online or back in development with 11, no kidding, 11 projects being proposed throughout the United States. I picked this article because I remember reading about something else that was going to happen in Texas way back when, like in the 90s or so, also having to do with high-speed rail, but it was canceled because of very interesting lobbyists and departments that were against this. I'll highlight that here in a minute. But first, let's talk about this Hyperloop 1. It's the project that's being done by Elon Musk, who is of course from Tesla. Like, he's very pro for this project, and I'm for this project too as well, because it's definitely something where other parts of the world have this, especially Asian countries, but we don't. So it's amazing how one of the most developed countries, if not the most developed country in the entire world, still does not have this within multiple states. And it definitely makes sense to have it. Imagine being able to go thousands of miles within a few short hours, as opposed to taking a longer time on any other plane, or of course a much longer time if you're driving. For example, the proposed timeline is you can go now from Austin to Dallas, if this project comes into fruition, in as little as 20 minutes, where currently it takes about 3.5 hours to do so. And if you wanted to stretch it even further, you could have a trip from here to, let's say, Los Angeles, from Texas to Los Angeles, in less than an hour's time, as opposed to the current time period, which takes over 3 hours. So this particular project, it's all still within the early development phases. The article I've included a link to states that even now, there's barely been the installation of a 1,650-foot long dev loop, which is like a kind of like a mini model of some kind, that showcases how this thing will work and what it will look like, and then essentially it's a preview of what will happen later on. But it also highlights the 11 key point areas that'll link all the states. There are going to be a total of 35 states involved, 4,200 miles, and the longest one will run between Cheyenne to Houston, which will be about 1,100 miles. And it's amazing because it'll link 4 states. It'll reduce 17-hour drive to as little as an hour and 45 minutes. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. So some of the proposed Hyperloop routes that stand out: Chicago to Columbus, Kansas City to St. Louis. There's a triangle of some kind there in Miami, the Miami, Florida area. Reno, Nevada to Las Vegas as well. It's about 500 miles that'll be linked together. I didn't realize that they were so far apart. And then the one I mentioned earlier, the Texas Triangle, which will be between Austin, San Antonio, and in the Dallas area, about 640 miles all combined. So that one I wanted to highlight because this is pretty interesting. It goes to show how big business works when it comes to either lobbying for something or lobbying against something, even if it's for the betterment of the community, and even if it's for the betterment of the state itself. If it's against some kind of big business making big money, then it's fascinating to see the lobbyists come out and go against it. So with regards to that Texas Triangle, apparently back in the early 90s, there was something called the Texas Central Railway that was going to be done to create high-speed rail between multiple parts of Texas. It'll be called the Texas Triangle, again, like the one currently being proposed now. And it was going to be privately financed. It would stretch several hundred miles from the bottom point from San Antonio all the way to the top point to the Dallas area, although other parts would have also maybe even included Oklahoma and Arkansas, if you can believe it. I guess if it stretched out that way later on. And this would have beat anything and everything when it comes to either flying by airplane or driving by car. because most Texans around here, there's pretty much only a few areas that we travel to, either San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and in some cases even Houston. But for the most part, the rest of the area, not so much. But these are the areas that most people travel to. So this would have absolutely cut travel time to next to nothing. Again, like 20 minutes at most. And it would have allowed people to experience new parts of the Texas area in a much more cost efficient and quicker manner. And the cost of it, again privately funded, would have been about $5.6 billion, which is not much per se when it comes to the cost of these things. It would have no doubt recuperated as quickly as possible because of the popularity of it. But guess what? Lobbyists kicked into play because there were count them, four different departments that would have been affected by this. When you think about it this way, if you're going to have a new item come in and all of a sudden make other things obsolete, those things that become obsolete will no longer make money, and they in turn will fight tooth and nail to make sure that they can get their money back or keep their money going into it. Like for example, Southwest Airlines, the most friendliest airline in the world, the one that has the big heart shaped as their logo, going to show how much they love the community. Well, they were actually the front tiered lobbyists to create legal barriers to try to make sure this did not move forward. And this is why. Because if this did happen, then guess what would happen to their flights? Their flights would be almost next to nothing. Because most Texas flights are between Dallas to Austin, Austin to San Antonio, and vice versa, and then again maybe Houston. So if that would have come into play, then nobody else would need Southwest Airlines much more for that. Why pay for the privilege of flying for between an hour or two when you can then just take this thing for a lot less cost and 20 minutes at a time? So you can see why Southwest Airlines definitely started up the lobbyist side to prevent this from occurring. And the three other departments were this: fast food joints from Burger King and McDonald's also joined the fray. Hotel lines such as La Quinta Inn and Days Inn also entered into the lobbyist range. And then finally, gas stations, gas chains, the Exxons, the Chevrons, the Texacos, whatever is the case, all of them joined into place. These four departments, one of them having to do with airlines, the other one fast food, the other one hotels, the other one's gas, all of them fought against this new proposal at that time because they all knew they were going to be impacted. The fast food joints all line up the highway, so anytime someone travels between San Antonio to Dallas, guess what they have to do? They have to eat, right? So they have to stop in and that gives money to the fast food places. Same with the hotels. The hotels, people that travel, like I do especially, and it's going to be a couple 100 miles, I always stay in a hotel. Well, now, if this railway would have come into place and it only took 20 minutes, who's going to stay in a hotel then, other than the destination point itself, not the actual points in between? So that's why the hotels were fighting tooth and nail for it, for blocking this new proposal. And then gas stations, of course, everywhere you travel, you always see gas stations anywhere and everywhere, and that's because they're always there ready to serve when it comes to people getting gas. So traveling hundreds of miles in your car, you're going to need gas, and that's why these things come into play. So all fascinating stuff. No, interesting to see how lobbyists work. And so far, I haven't seen much in terms of this new proposal, this new Hyperloop one with the 11 newly unveiled points, any much pushback from these departments, but we shall see. Give it a little bit of time. You may have these four departments yet again fight tooth and nail to prevent this Hyperloop one. So interesting stuff. I've included the article below, and I've included the link for the high-speed rail portion of Texas if you wanted more details of it. So, alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.